Hello, everybody. Welcome. Already, participants are joining right away for another in our series of webinars, the Chevral Haganat Hateva, Society for the Protection of Nature in Israel, coming to you with a live webinar for the first time in more than a month. We took a summer break, but we're interrupting that summer break for a special webinar tonight on the holiday that just began in Israel. It's sundown this evening. That is Tu B'Av, the date on the Hebrew calendar, traditionally the holiday of love. I read that it was mentioned once in the Mishnah, and there are several different interpretations about why women dressed in white and danced in maidens in Jerusalem and danced for the men in Jerusalem on a very happy day. But we celebrate, it's the Israeli version of Valentine's Day. We celebrate love, and especially in recent years. And we found it appropriate to do a webinar on love between the incredible mountain gazelle, the iconic mountain gazelle, and nobody better to tell you about that than Amir Balaban. We'll get to that in a couple minutes. I'm Jay Shofet, coming to you from Tel Aviv, from my home and the headquarters of SPNI in Israel. Amir is, I presume, in his home uh, in Jerusalem or the outskirts of Jerusalem, I believe, or Jerusalem. And he's actually doing his reserve duty now, but managed to get out for this webinar. He and many of our colleagues in SPNI have been doing a lot of IDF reserve duty in the last 10 months in Israel. Uh, but we're happy to have him with us tonight. Welcome everybody who's coming in. Let us know where you're from. Tell us where you're coming from in the chat feature. I see we already have Ocean Pines, Vancouver. Hello, Lisa. Um, we have a kila of 11, 1,200 people who join these webinars on a regular basis. Not 1,000 every night, but over the course of the last few years, we kind of have a solid core of over 1,000 people that have been joining us on a fairly regular basis. So we recognize the names and places. Hello, everybody from Israel as well. We often forget our English speakers here in Israel. We're open to everybody from Austin to Vancouver to Orlando to Berkeley to Copenhagen. Hi, Stig. I was just in Copenhagen a few weeks ago. Wow, what a city. Anyway, so great to see where everybody's from. Palo Alto and Modine and Colorado, Johannesburg. We are really reaching the globe here. And you are all here in for a treat tonight because with us is Amir Balaban. Amir is the director of SPNI's very successful and groundbreaking and growing urban nature project. He'll tell you a little bit about that, I'm sure, today. Gazelle Valley is part and parcel of what he does, and really one of the flagship urban nature sites in the world. And what is an urban nature site and how does it differ from a park? We'll be talking about that, but mostly we'll be talking about the gazelles and their love life and a lot of background that you'll find very interesting. Amir is a naturalist, an ecologist, a birder, really a Renaissance guy. He's also a painter and a photographer, and a guy that has many, many talents and skills. And one of the top ones is communication. Uh, if you've ever taken a tour in Israel with Amir in the Gazelle Valley or out and about in the fields, watching him rip up the pine saplings from the Jerusalem hills as they grow back from the fires, and really explaining in granular detail the life of about the lives of everything going on in Gazelle Valley, the gazelles, the tortoises, the birds, the ducks, the everything going on in there. Um, so anyway, welcome everybody. I got 100 people already on this webinar. So I think we're going to be getting going now. What time is it? We're 5 minutes after the hour. So yes, Amir Balaban, thank you very much for being here. David Amichai, doing back office today as usual. Thank you very much. David is also one of those people that has been doing reserve duty a lot since since October 7th. So we're glad everybody's here and safe and sound, at least for this webinar, making it through most of the summer and celebrating Tu B'Av tonight. So thank you. Thank you very much, Amir.
Thank you very much, Jay, for the flattering introduction. I'm very happy to be with you this evening in these very challenging of times for many of us. But we must not forget that nature uh, and wildlife at large have their own cycles. And we might be challenged, but wildlife is challenged all the time. And our job here in SPNI in Israel, and I think of all our supporters that are joining us this evening, is to make sure that wildlife, nature, is preserved for future generations, not only for our benefit, but for the benefit of the whole ecosystem that we depend on. And I must start this program with a disclaimer. Uh, this is a program for adults only. I'm going to talk about the love life of gazelles, and it is going to be a very explicit program. We're not going to be shy, and we're going to tell all the secrets of the Israeli mountain gazelle. And the love life of gazelles holds many secrets that we are now discovering thanks to some of our projects, especially the project of the Gazelle Valley Park, which I have the honor to be one of the founders, and I'm the park's ecologist. The fact that we can work with an enclosed herd of gazelles enable us to see and discover things that are very hard to see in the wild. And I'm going to share with you some of these discoveries. And one of the biggest challenges is actually documenting and making sure that what we are seeing is actually fact and not our imagination. But before we start the program, we have to clear a few facts. What are gazelles? And many people get gazelles and deer mixed up, even in Israel, and also a lot of visitors that come to visit Israel. When they see our gazelles, they're sure they're deer, and when they see the gazelles and they see the size of a gazelle, they get a bit disappointed because they think gazelles are deer, and basically, no, gazelles are antelopes. They are part of the bovid family, and there are some clear differences that we're going to be speaking about. Here you can see some beautiful illustrations from a relatively new book by Jose Arcastello with beautiful illustrations that describe this very unique group of animals, the bovids, about 100 of them that are living on Earth. And one of the most important things to understand about bovids is their ability to use plant matter in a very efficient way. And this is done by the rumen. Rumen is one of the four stomachs that ruminants have, and they enable gazelles and bovids to chew cud and actually make sure that every piece of energy stored, every piece of sugar stored in the plant matter is collected and used for this very, very intensively a physiological creature that needs a lot of energy, a lot of output in order to survive in the wild. And this is something that will help you get things clear. First of all, contrary to deer, antelopes have horns and they do not shed the horns, contrary to deer. Deer shed their horns after the rut when winter comes, and basically they regrow each cycle, each year. And antelopes, their horns will grow as they get older, males and females alike. And here you can see the different type of horns bovids have. and they are very, very intricately created and for many, many, many purposes. The main purpose of horns is to to create, for males at least, uh, to symbolize and show their strength and social level. The larger the horns, the thicker, the heavier the horns are, the stronger the male is. And usually, and you'll soon see, you can actually age bovine by the size of their horns. On the bottom row here, you can see the differences between a deer, okay, that shed their horns, and this is a pronghorn. It's an American antelope that actually grows a keratin cover over a skeletal horn. And same here with these wild goats. So basically, all the bovides have a skeletal horn covered with a keratin cover that is usually not very smooth. And these rings and a lot of twirls and shapes, one of their purposes is to enable males to lock their horns. Okay, so locking of horns is a very important part in the rat, and we'll talk about this soon. And here you can see a beautiful illustration of how horns, how horns are different in from birth into adulthood with a black-faced impala. And you can see when a fawn is born, they are hornless. And one of the reasons is because uh, a fetus with horns is very dangerous for the mother. And also during birth, the fawn has to be very smooth as they are extracted at birth. And only after 6 months, horns begin to develop, and they will develop according to the sex. If it's a male, it's going to be thicker, sharper, usually much more impressive horns than females. Horns also serve as a protective mean against predators. If you are trying to hunt an impala, you have to be very, very careful of its horns because they can be deadly. Here, there's another example of a European mouflon that is also, it also shows how these horns develop as they age. And you can see they reach their fullest size at the age of 6, 7, and more. Now, one of the most impressive features of gazelles and bovids at large is the fact that they can move very fast. And one of the adaptations, the evolutionary developments, are the fact that the number of toes has decreased, and this decrease in area enable most antelopes to reach very, very high speeds. Some of the highest land mammal speeds have been clocked by gazelles, and they can reach a speed of 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. Okay, and the bottom row shows you the ungulates that have odd-toed toes, and you can see some of them are very well known, like elephants and hippos and such. And they are, of course, much slower and heavier. You can also see how the skeleton of antelopes, like the chamois on the top right, is very, very thin, very agile. Look at the rib cage that holds an enormous pair of lungs that enable to oxygenate the blood system very efficiently, and how the legs are long, thin, and very agile. And here we see a little bit of skull topography, and and we can see that the antelopes usually have toothless front upper jaws. And this is basically a very efficient grazing tool that enable the antelopes and bovides at large collect grass. And you can see the cavity that's created in the front area between the lower jaw and the upper jaw, where the cud can be chewed, processed by the tongue, re-swallowed. Okay. And like in bird topography, we also have horn topography, and this is how we measure length of horns, width of horns, and we can actually start creating a kind of an understanding of how horns develop in different ages. And these are measurements that we do take when we catch or find dead antelopes in Israel. Now, antelopes have developed, especially gazelles, have been developed during the last 14 million years. And the oldest known gazelle fossil was discovered in China about 14 million years ago. I had the privilege to see this exact reconstruction in Beijing a few years ago when we visited the IVPP, which is the Center of Paleontology Research, Paleontological Research in China. And the oldest skeleton found in northern Africa, in Algeria, is about 10 million years ago. So we know and we see that these gazelles have been up and about for many, many years in our region. Now, when we're talking about our region, gazelles are considered to be an iconic species. And in Sefer Dvarim, it is considered one of the animals that you can eat. Gazelles and deer that have been already uh, reintroduced to Israel during the last 30 years, they are considered kosher. And the two signs are two hoofs and ruminants, meaning they chew cud. This makes them edible for Jews, and they are one of the most prolific mammals mentioned in our Bible. And they're mentioned not only as a food source, but they are also a very important part of our visual archaeology. And here you can see a piece of the Madba map that was created by the Romans in Jordan. And you can see the northern part of the Dead Sea. And you can see what we call Arvat Yericho, the prairie of Jericho. And you can see the date palms, you can see the bridges, you can see the tilapia swimming up and down the Jordan, and you can see the gazelles running along the plains of the northern part of the Dead Sea, and you can still see them to this day. And this is quite an amazing thing. This whole description of the North Dead Sea ecosystem is described here and still exists to this day. And this is another beautiful mosaic, one of the most impressive mosaics you can see in our region. This is Hisham's palace, north of the city of Jericho, where you can see a description of a fruiting tree, lions hunting gazelles, which is like, wow. Lions have been extinct, but gazelles are still quite common. And again, you can see this, the depiction of gazelles in a more scientific approach during the 18th century. A work done by Buffon, a French zoologist, that created these beautiful images, the anatomy of gazelles. And you can see on the right, on the right print, not only there is a beautiful description of the mountain gazelles, but also the ruins of the Holy Land, which are a combination that is visually very, very beautiful. Now, Israel has been blessed with two species of gazelles. The one on the top is the mountain gazelle, or the Israeli mountain gazelle, Gazella, Gazella, Gazella. The second one is the Dorcas gazelle, and this is a species that its distribution is from northern Africa to Arabia. And the one on the bottom basically is the acacia gazelle. The acacia gazelle is considered a subspecies of the mountain gazelle. It's not considered a species by itself, but it is different. You can see the shape, the unique shape of the horns, the very elongated neck, and it's a very, very rare subspecies with a population of about 40 remaining gazelles in the that live in a secluded area in the Khaybar of Yotveta, north of Eilat. So mountain gazelles are the commonest species, and here you can see a summary of the 2021 summary census, and you can see that the Israeli mountain gazelle population is estimated at around 4,300 head, which is not a lot. And the numbers of the Dorcas gazelle is around 2,000, and the last count of the acacia during is around 40. It's been growing very, very gradually and very slowly. It's also very important to state here that the mountain gazelle, its only stronghold in the Middle East is Israel. There are none left in our neighboring countries. There is a small population in Turkey of about 100 gazelles that are in a big pen in southern Turkey, and Israel is the last place where you can actually see mountain gazelles in the wild. And if we're about 4,500 strong, that means it's less than tigers. So the Israeli mountain gazelle is an endangered species. And it's our responsibility to make sure that this iconic species remains. And here you can see some of the challenges we have. A lot of poaching, development, road kills. Illegal poaching is a big problem in many areas in Israel because the mountain gazelles are considered to be very sought after trophy. Some of it is ideological. We also have a lot of problems with feral dogs in Israel, especially now in the south with the Gaza war, when the border fence was broken. Thousands of dogs entered Israel, and they are becoming a very harsh ecological problem, preying on gazelles, using fences in a very, very intensive way. There's also a lot of pressure by agriculture, fences that protect agricultural areas. But the most prominent problem is development. Israel is developing in a very, very intensive rate. And this photograph was taken in Mitzpe Naftuach, which is an amazing urban wildlife site in the northern part of Jerusalem. And this male was looking over his territory, and suddenly I noticed the backdrop, which looks photoshopped, but it's not. This is a Golda Junction, one of the biggest junctions in northern Jerusalem. And suddenly you understand how the species is challenged by our intensive rate of development. And one of the main challenges we have in SPNI is how to enable development without interfering or with mitigating the interference and the damage that this development creates for a lot of species. And one of the focuses of our activity is working with the planning boards, the regional planning boards and the national planning boards, to create national and regional ecological corridors that enable these species to move freely and safely. This is not something easy to do, but we have had some achievements, and I might elaborate on this a little bit further on. But we are talking about the love life of gazelles, and in order to have a closer look at gazelles' love life, we have to work in a laboratory. And this is our laboratory. This is Gazelle Valley Park that was inaugurated in 2015 uh, after a very long civil battle against proposed housing development on this patch of land. And what you can see here basically is that it's an enclosure and it's managed by our team, the SPNI team and the municipality of Jerusalem. The park is also funded by the Jerusalem Foundation and many supporters of SPNI that support our activity, especially the educational and community work we're doing there. And apart from having a herd of about 130 mountain gazelles, we have close to 150,000 visitors per year that come to watch, learn, and also help us maintain this beautiful park. It's not only about gazelles, it's also about urban runoff water and the reuse of recycled water in the city, but that's for another presentation. And this is how the park looks in winter when it's flooded. And you can also see our new visitor center in the center of the park that is going to be open this year. And the unique thing about the park is the fact that you can meet gazelles in the park. And here you see one of the pictures that we're very proud of. You can see on the bottom a herd of female gazelles in the area which is designated for the gazelles. And on the backdrop, you can see a kindergarten group looking at the gazelles. So this is an amazing place to meet and watch gazelles. And this is what we do most of the time. We observe, and our observation enable us to manage the herd in a very good way. But before we dive into the love life of the gazelles, we can see here from the Song of Songs the importance of gazelles in our heritage and how gazelles are very are a part of our concept of love. And you can see here this beautiful text from the Song of Songs. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and by the hinds of the field. Hinds, by the way, are deer. That are ye awaken not, nor stir up love until it please. And in the bottom, until the day breathe, and the shadows flee away, turn, my beloved, and be thou like a gazelle or a young hart upon the mountain spices. This is a beautiful depiction of an Israeli landscape with gazelles frolicking about, and what a beautiful piece of text containing gazelles. And you should ask yourself, why do gazelles symbolize or are a part of a love scene or a depiction of love in the Old Testament? And here we have to see and watch some images. And these are two sub-adult gazelles, bachelors from a bachelor herd, in the grasses in the southern part of the Gazelle Valley. And you can see how beautiful they are, how agile, how athletic they are. Okay. And not only that, the horns, they are so beautiful, so perfect. And they are also, when you think of, for example, David's lyre, the lyre is created in the shape of the male gazelle horns. And you can see how beautiful they are. You can see the rings. These rings are basically a part of the weaponization of these horns, and you immediately see how. And this is a herd of females in a early April morning, springtime. They are all pregnant, feeding on the beautiful fresh grass in the bottom part of the valley. Now, all this richness is basically owned by this territorial male. And when you ask yourself, how do male gazelles reach a harem of 20 females, well, they have to have capacity, they have to be very strong, but they have to be protective of something. And when we started working in Gazelle Valley Park, we started identifying the main features that female gazelles are looking for. So the first thing female gazelles will be looking for is a lot of food. And gazelles graze and browse. You can see that the trees in Gazelle Valley Park are well browsed by the gazelles. They are actually eco-engineers creating this very straight line of browsing of the foliage of leaves. And they are also very fine grazers that graze on the grasses. So their job is to manipulate the vegetation in the park for their own use. And vegetation is first of all energy, but not only that. You will see as we advance in the program, it's also a very important feature to hide fawns. And here you can see a juvenile male that hasn't been chased away from the herd, feeding underneath a mulberry tree and collecting the ripe fruit that fall from the tree in late spring. And here in another territory, you can see a herd of female gazelles collecting leaves and fruit from an almond tree. So every male has these very important assets. Could be a big mulberry tree, a big almond tree, or a few of them. And the larger the territory and the richer the territory will be, the larger the harem will be at his disposal. That means the male has to invest a lot of energy in protecting this territory. Now, how do you make sure the territory is yours? And here, this is a young male that we brought when the park was opened from a Tel Aviv zoological collection. And he was the only male in Gazelle Valley Park with three females. And the second day in the park, what he did was he started to mark his territory, marking by dumping feces and also marking with his horns. Gazelles have about six areas in their body that have smell glands, and these glands they have a very strong odor, and you just have to rub between your horns, and there you go. This is a territorial marking. And here you can see how females also interact. And here you can see a pregnant female and a younger female playing around. And when females are playing around, usually they are becoming they're starting to ovulate, and this is something males are always very attentive to. And this is the time basically when male gazelles in wintertime um, they maintain their dominance on on their territory, and this is very hard work. And in order to protect your territory, shine or rain or snow in Jerusalem, you have to be very fit and agile. You have to be very alert. And this is a male that's actually seeing another male coming into his territory, and you can see he's darting towards this male. And here you can see this male relaxing again with two of his females. By the way, look at the winter coat that these gazelles have in winter. Mountain gazelles have two types of coats: a long, very thick fur for winter, and a short, cooler fur for summertime. And this is springtime, and here you can see a bachelor herd, which is where all the young males are basically chased away into. And they will spend their first 3 years of their life, sometimes even four, in this bachelor herd where they will play, get stronger, and one day they will become contenders and challenge another territorial male in the park. And while they develop their skills, they keep on pestering and coming into territories and checking out the dominant males. If they are strong enough to protect their territory, and if not, a challenge will develop. And all this happens under the watchful eyes of females. And here you can see one of the beautiful females in the lower part of the park. And you can see we can identify a lot of these female by their unique horn shapes. Usually the horns are straight, but as they grow and mature, and sometimes deformations are created, and these enable us to identify specific females. This is an adult female. You can see she's even got a little bit of white hair between her horns. She's about 4, 5, maybe even 6 years old. And look at this male again. Not only does he mark with his scent glands in the grass, but he also has this trick up of his sleeve. And this is something female gazelles really, really like, and they are really impressed by. While rubbing their scent glands and horns in the grass, they will pick up bunches of grass or twigs or branches, and they will walk with these on their head, like with a crown of a crown of grass. And this is very impressive to the females. You can see this group of females was very impressed by the smell. You can see they're all like, wow, oof, he's a hot one. They're even the ones in the front are discussing and planning ahead. And this male is an amazing male that I documented about 6 years ago. He was a very old male. During his last days holding a territory, you can see he's a one-eyed male. His right eye was punctured by another male, probably. But you can see also how the male apparatus is built, and you can see his penis very long. And remember, these females are very agile, so they need to have a very, very long penis. And this is another one of the largest herds we have, female herds we have in the southern part of the park. And you can see the council houses in the background, and basically how this amazing, impossible reality of housing people and gazelles is about in the Gazelle Valley Park. And during springtime, most of the gazelles are not receptive. They're not ovulating. Most of them are pregnant. And here you can see that in springtime, when you come to visit the park, males are very, very busy chasing females. And females are not giving them the slightest of chances. So you can see this male chasing a female, and this can go on for hours. And if this male has 20 females and they're all running away from him, you can imagine how tired they become and how exhausting this thing is. And this brings us to autumn, to August and September, and to Tu B'Av. And Tu B'Av, why would Tu B'Av would be celebrated in the most hostile period of the year in Israel when it's the hottest? Well, apparently, August and September are when summer weakens. Not only does it weaken, but it's also the time when you have the richest foods about. In the Mediterranean area, fruit ripen midsummer and fall. And the reason is because the best time to disperse the seeds is before the autumn rains. So a lot of trees and a lot of plants distribute sweet fruit, and the animals, mammals, and birds will feed on them and disperse the seeds. And the rains that are expected in September and October will germinate, help them germinate and develop. So it is a time of richness. And not only richness, it's sweet and it's full of energy. And this is the time when the rut starts. Okay, so this is the time where a male will have the most female in his territory, and if his territory is rich with fruiting trees and plants, he will have a great way to disperse his genes. And here you can see one of the most beautiful males we've ever had in the park on the left here. It had this specific male had the longest horns we've ever documented, with over 23 rings. And his nickname was Rambo, and you can see him feeding on the different type of trees. And one of the most impressive plants that he had in his territory was the Sharvitan. It's a vine that grows on trees, and this special vine apparently has consists of ephedrine, which is a chemical that is presumed stimulant by cardiologists, and we're suspecting that it has something to do with their potency. And this male, you can see him on the left, chewing on the Sharvitan. And this guy has over 20 females, had 20 females, but you can see also the bones in his hind area. And you can see that he's working very, very hard. He's basically very muscular, no fat, but he has the food where he gets his energy from. And here you can see two males uh, checking out each other on a boundary between two territories. Most territorial buffs will end by comparing sizes and walking in a very, very parallel walk where they can actually size each other up. And if possible, they will try to finish just by comparing sizes. That would be enough, unless one will try to infiltrate his neighbor's territory. Now here you can see another gesture, which is actually checking out one another. And this border skirmish was just about to start, but I think both males just decided, yeah, we're even, let's stick to our border and let's not make a big fuss about it. We have our females to deal with. We have a lot of energy to save, so let's keep it as good neighbors. This is another documentation of the rut in a bachelor herd. This was taken in Mitzpe Naftuach, the site I told you about in the beginning or the middle of the presentation. And this was a very interesting observation, because these two males were actually practicing. They were not actually fighting, but at the end of the practice session, watch what happened. Now, when you don't have a territory with females and you're so sexed up, this is what you get. So you can see when I'm asked sometimes, is there homosexuality in the wildlife or in nature? I say, well, I've seen it before, and I see it each season, especially when males have no other options. So here you can see a documentation of this activity in a bachelor herd in Mitzpe Naftuach. This is another thing that I managed to document. These are video shots these are video stills that I made of two males that met in a border skirmish, and it developed into an amazingly violent a fight. And it took about 2 to 3 minutes. And to my amazement, the male on the left killed a full-size adult male, stabbing it in the neck and killing it instantly. Not only that, it kept on attacking the dead gazelle for more than 10 minutes. It was one of the most aggressive observation in gazelle activity that I've ever had in my life. And it was a straight stab in the neck, dead. And here you can see during the rut how playful female gazelle become, because what they're basically ovulating and they're becoming very receptive to males. And one of the ways to show this is by playing around. And sometimes you see these playful runs and dances, and a lot of fancy looking moves that attract a lot of attention by the males. And you can see this is a group of bachelors that are getting very, very itchy during the rut, but they have to deal with these guys, these male these territorial males with very long, sharp horns and very, very short tempers. And this is a very typical activity. And here you can see a male sniffing around the females and marking their territory. And here again, you can see this funny face the males are making. And this is not just to make the females receptive, but also to sniff the females. What they have is a very special patch in their upper jaw that is called the Jacobson's organ, or vomeronasal organ. It's very common in snakes, in a lot of mammals. And this basically is an organ that can scent molecules, and this enables the male to feel, to scent if the female is ready for mating. Once a female is ready for mating, the chases end, and this is where the very intimate action takes place. And what the male
Amir, I hate to interrupt, but we're getting close to the end. There are a lot of questions, so I want to be
Okay,
respectful of people's
we're
times.
we're getting to the main event, and
We
here
are.
you can see how the male fondles the female with his forelegs and also tickles the female's backside with his beard. He has these long, elongated mustachial hairs on his chin, or chin hairs, and this drives the females crazy. And here is how it looks when the females are responsive. So this is what it looks like when gazelles make love, and this is something that you can actually observe when you come to Israel during August, September. And during winter time, the females are pregnant. It takes them 6 months to reach the final stages. And here you can see a fully pregnant female just about to give birth. And this is why a good territory is very important because this is where you can hide your fawns. And these fawns need the protection of long vegetation in order to survive predators. And yes, we do have predators around, mostly crows that predate on fawns. So this is very important. You can see this female with its fawn suckling and then cleaning the fawn, making sure it's safe. The fawns get to know the local wildlife. These are the chukars. They learn from the females what is dangerous and what is safe. And when they mature, they join the herds. And here you can see a threesome of female fawns getting together into the herd. And this is a beautiful fawn that we found 2 years ago that was nicknamed Cuckoo because she had this very funny ponytail on her head. And this is the fruit of gazelle love. And I hope you enjoyed this intimate presentation about how gazelles mate, how they live, and how they hopefully proliferate in the nature of Israel.
Amir, awesome. Thank you very much. We learned so much. Very, very interesting. And yeah, it really was our X-rated. Let's use just some quick ones. There's a lot of quick questions. A lot of questions. Hopefully, it'll be quick. First of all, where in the wild in Israel is the best place to see gazelles?
Gazelles distribution in Israel is from Mount Hermon down to the south to the western Negev, by the way. You can also watch the six-legged gazelle, Sheshet, on YouTube. It's a beautiful example how gazelles are a kind of a sort of uh, a multi ecosystem species from the Mediterranean to the desert. And if the habitat is good, complete, you'll find gazelles there.
Okay. How many males currently have a harem in Gazelle Valley? Like how many are there in that
Seven
territory?
territories. We have 7 territories of territorial males. That means we are now very busy extracting gazelles into the wild. So we have a beautiful project that if you were interested in supporting, of helping us, we are extracting gazelles from Gazelle Valley Park into wild areas in Israel and replenishing populations. This is a beautiful project that we might have a different presentation about. Very exciting.
Rewilding gazelles, absolutely. If you're interested, contact us. We can send you more information right away on the whole process and the expenses of rewilding, getting the gazelles back out of the wild. Do gazelles ever attack humans?
Very rarely, because mostly gazelles, their main way to protect themselves is by flight. They are very, very agile and fast animals. They will never, unless a male is cornered, they will always run away. So unless it's a case of a tame gazelle that was, you know, captive, none. There are no instances of gazelles attacking people.
And how often have you seen a male gazelle kill another one like you showed? Is that very rare?
Very, very rare. I've seen it only once and managed to document it only once. And we do see some injured gazelles, like broken legs, sometimes with a scar or, a punctured eye. This can happen, or a punctured lung. But these are usually not lethal. They will cause a male to lose his territory, or sometimes it's a broken horn. So they will lose their territory, and they will leave to the bachelor patch.
The crows work in flocks, in groups to prey on the fawns. They do.
Yes, what happens is the crows sit on treetops, and if a female is not careful, and it actually shows its fawn in the first week, they will find the hideout of the fawn and they will kill it. They can kill it by pecking at its eyes, and it's a big problem all over Israel because crows are numerous. They thrive on our rubbish, and
Yeah.
their population is growing.
Yeah. Okay, quickly. Could you repeat the names of the trees that produce the fruit for the gazelles that you mentioned?
Mulberry tree and the Sharvitan. I'll look the name up in English. It's a beautiful vine uh, that is also
Charcutan.
considered uh, a remedy for cancer, sort of
Right.
a traditional remedy for cancer. And yeah, I'll tell you the name in a second. Sharvitan,
Okay.
Sharvitan, Sharvitan. Yeah, any more questions?
Yeah, a lot of questions. Do gazelles emit methane like other ruminants?
Yes, but their scats are very, very small, so the amount is negligible.
Yeah, they're what? They're just a fraction of the size of a cow.
Yeah.
Um, are the gazelles in Gazelle valleys habituated to human visitors, so their behavior is not affected if you don't approach too close? That's
It's a
true,
good,
correct?
it's a good question. They are not habituated. They are the fact that the park is divided into two sections, an area for people and an area for gazelles, create help them create the basic instincts that enable us to release them back to the wild. Because if they were habituated, it would be
Right. All right. Just so people understand, there's no fence that differentiates those two parts. I just explained.
leafless ephedra. That's the name of the vine, leafless ephedra, and
Leafless
it's
fedra.
rich with ephedrine, which is considered to be an aphrodisiac or stamina
So
enhancer.
So just so people know, and we should have had a map maybe of the park. It's like a sort of a elongated triangle, and there's an inner core that's fenced off by just a little yellow rope, with some poles around it. And the gazelles wander in and out. People can't go inside the yellow rope, and certainly when people are not in the park from during the night hours, I'm sure the gazelles wander all over, but they stay free from the people. But there's no fence between you, so it really is a feeling of you were with them. Um, what else do we got? How is overpopulation prevented or handled in the park? I mean,
We
yes,
have a
the question is, are
first of
some gazelles resettled in areas of the Galilee, for example? Yeah, so tell us where they're being resettled, the Golan and the North.
From day one, we devised a plan that every year we extract at least a third of the population outside the park. So we're taking out a growing number of gazelles. We've released gazelles in the Golan Heights, in Mount Carmel, and also in the hills of Jerusalem. This is where we usually release most of the populations. And from what we've seen until now, their release back to the wild is very successful.
Great.
Someone
And you
asked
got,
about Johanna. Johanna sadly is not with us anymore. She passed away in good old age.
I didn't see that question, but I didn't even know that. Do gazelle couples stay together? Are they monogamous?
No monogamy there, guys. This is a good old style biblical relationships. There's a king and there's a harem, and this is how it goes. A male.
And and Amir, when you said that was when you showed the sex act, and you said this is a female being receptive. That's receptive. She was pretty hard to get just before she was receptive.
They are females. Female gazelles are hard to get, and males at the end of the rut are a bag of bones.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough.
It's not, I look at the male gazelles and I'm not envious. I say to myself, wow, monogamy is basically a good deal.
Yeah, interesting, very interesting. Well, that brings us. We're still a minute or two overdue. Any questions? Do the gazelles eat the fruit of the shezaf? That's the plum.
Yes, yes. Jerusalem doesn't have many lots of shazaf, but in areas where they do grow, it's a very important and the central part of their diet. But in general, they love fruit. They love olives in autumn. They feast on olives towards winter, and it gives them a beautiful coat and a nice layer of fat. It enables them to deal with the cold weather in high altitudes.
And people who want to know of the best place to observe the mountain gazelle and the Dorcas gazelle, I would say when next time you're coming to Israel, we'll get you in touch with Amir and he'll tell you that day where the
Yeah, give
best.
us a call. The best place in the Dorcas is in the far south. Mountain gazelles. There are a few places in Israel, in the north, also in Jerusalem area. Keep in
But
touch.
come to Gazelle Valley. I mean, it's really an
Yeah,
experience. And you didn't even
definitely.
mention the tortoises, the turtles and tortoises that you're.
That's another program.
It's another program, but you can see many of them there as well. Thank you very, very much, Amir. It was very enlightening as usual, entertaining. Thank everybody for joining, and thanks, David Amichai, back office in Jerusalem. If you'd like to support us, we're looking for funds to continue to heal Israeli nature, preserve Israeli nature, uh, and help Israelis heal in nature. It's one of the main things we've been doing since October 7th is making nature accessible because being in nature makes people feel better. It relieves symptoms of stress and depression and anxiety, which is rampant in Israel right now for reasons you may understand. So you can scan this. You can go to our website, Nature Israel, and we'll be having a virtual benefit. Um, this same time, a webinar coming up on September 15th. That's a month from now. And that'll be a live webinar. We'll be screening a new 8-minute movie that we've made about our activities since October 7th. We'll be honoring Nature Israel, ASPNI's former chairpeople. It'll be an exciting hybrid event. It's the first time we're doing that. We're having a gala event in New York that day at that time, and you'll hear partly live talks, partly recorded pieces, and we're all excited. So please join us. We'll be sending you information about that. Mir, thank you very much. Thank everybody for joining from all over the world. Really appreciate it so much. Lila Tov from Jerusalem, and may it be another quiet night here, or quiet-ish.
Tov.
Lila Tov. Toda rabah v'chag sameach. Happy Tu B'Av, everybody, and
לילה
especially to
טוב,
those
everyone.
gazelles. Thank you.